the Brazilian legend. In 1978, a 15-year-old kid from Sao Paulo walked into a tiny paint shop run by Sid Mosca. The kid was Ayrton Senna. Sid and his son Alan were already painting helmets for Brazilian racing royalty, Fittipaldi, Piquet. They knew talent when they saw it. The first helmet Sid made for Senna was nothing special. White base, blue stripe, forgettable. Then, in 1979, Senna got called up to represent Brazil at the World Karting Championship in Estoril. The rules said every driver on the national team had to wear the same design, Brazilian colors, and the helmets had to be done in 5 days. Sid and Alan got to work. They made the base bright yellow because it was warm, youthful, and would stand out like a flare on track. Then came the 2 horizontal stripes shooting from the visor towards the back of the helmet, one green on top, one blue underneath. As Alan later explained, the stripes were designed to look like they were coming out of the driver's eyes, symbolizing concentration, focus, everything that Senna was about. When Senna returned to Brazil after narrowly losing the title to Peter Coen, he called the Moscas directly. His words were simple: "I'm keeping this design. Tell the other drivers not to copy it. I will keep this paint design for the rest of my career." And he did. For the next 15 years, through Toleman, Lotus, McLaren, and every rain-soaked masterclass he ever delivered, that yellow helmet was his face. After Senna died at Imola in 1994, the helmet became something bigger than a design. It became a national symbol. His sister Viviane's Instituto Ayrton Senna still commissions replica helmets from the Mosca workshop for charity. Alan and his daughter Stella still paint them. Still yellow. The influence is everywhere. Hamilton wore yellow throughout his karting years and early McLaren career. Hakkinen used the exact same layout with Finnish colors. Alonso borrowed the yellow for his Spanish flag variation. Even in 2026, Red Bull rookie Isaac Hadjar chose yellow specifically as a Senna tribute. No helmet in motorsport has been imitated more. You could put it on a beach towel, a coffee mug, anything, and every person knows who it belongs to. That's not a paint job. That's immortality. The Red Baron. When Michael Schumacher debuted at the 1991 Belgian Grand Prix in a Jordan, his helmet was simple: white base, German flag colors on the sides, black, red, and gold. A blue circle on top meant to represent the sky. No drama, just a kid from Kirpin trying to make it. That design stayed through Benetton, through both championships in 1994 and 1995, and into early Ferrari. Recognizable, sure, but not legendary yet. Then came the 2000 Monaco Grand Prix, and everything changed. Schumacher had a problem. His new Ferrari teammate Barrichello also wore a white helmet with a blue circle on top. On TV, they were impossible to tell apart. So Schumacher took all that blue and white and turned it red. Bright Ferrari red. It was a practical decision that became a cultural one, because suddenly, Michael Schumacher didn't just drive a red car. He was red, head to toe, visor to exhaust pipe. The helmet merged with the Ferrari in a way that no driver had ever matched their machine before. When you saw that red bullet screaming out of the Parabolica at Monza, the helmet and the car were one single terrifying object. That's how he earned the nickname the Red Baron, named after Manfred von Richthofen, the World War I flying ace. German, dominant, painted in red. The nickname captured everything about his Ferrari years: 72 wins, 5 consecutive championships, a machine operating at a different frequency. He kept the red even when he came back with Mercedes in 2010. People expected him to switch to silver. He didn't. The red was his identity now. For his final race at the 2006 Brazilian Grand Prix, his helmet carried the names of all 91 Grand Prix victories. At the 2011 Belgian Grand Prix, marking 20 years since his debut, he ran a gold-leafed version. Every variation told a story, but the base was always the same: red. German flag, 7 stars on top, 1 for each world title. After his skiing accident in December 2013, the helmet took on a different meaning. At the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix, the paddock wore red caps in his honor. Hamilton and Vettel wore tribute helmets. Mercedes painted their halo red. That red helmet became shorthand for a man who gave everything to racing, and then had everything taken away. His son Mick wore a recreation of the original 1991 design at his own Spa debut 30 years later. Same white base, same flag, same blue sky. A way of saying, this is where it all started. Still, I rise. rise. Here's a detail most people don't know. Lewis Hamilton didn't choose yellow because of Ayrton Senna. When Lewis was 8 years old, his father Anthony sat him down at the kitchen table and asked what colors he wanted for his first karting helmet. Anthony chose the yellow himself because he needed to spot his son in a pack of 40 or 50 karts flying into the first corner. Yellow was the loudest color on the grid. It wasn't tribute. It was survival. Of course, the Senna connection came later. A mixed race kid from Stevenage wearing yellow, driving for McLaren, Senna's team. The parallel wrote itself. Hamilton leaned into it. Yellow with red, blue, and green accents throughout his McLaren years. From that incredible 2007 rookie season through his first title in 2008. But Hamilton's helmet story isn't about staying the same. It's about evolution. When he moved to Mercedes in 2014, the yellow started to fade. White took over. Championships stacked up. Stars appeared for each title. In 2017, he ran a fan-designed helmet by Brazilian artist Rai Caldato as a direct Senna homage. Then, 2020 happened. The pandemic, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. Hamilton went full black and purple. No more yellow. The helmet carried Black Lives Matter and Still We Rise. It matched the all-black Mercedes livery. Still I Rise comes from the Maya Angelou poem, but Hamilton's connection goes deeper. He's talked about his brother Nicholas, who lives with cerebral palsy, watching Nicholas fall down repeatedly because his legs didn't work, and watching him get up every single time without complaining. That image became Hamilton's philosophy. Fall down 10 times, get up 11. He tattooed it across his back. He engraved it on his helmet. It became his signature as much as the yellow ever was. At the 2023 Qatar Grand Prix, he wore a rainbow-striped helmet supporting LGBTQ rights. He auctioned it for charity. Now with Ferrari in 2025, the yellow is back, merged with Ferrari red. Still I Rise is still there. The design has changed a dozen times, but the message hasn't. That's what makes Hamilton's helmet different. It was never just about looking good. It was always about saying something. The Rebel. Here is the simplest helmet design in Formula One history, and somehow, one of the most powerful. A black base, 3 thin stripes down each side, red, blue, and yellow. And his name, James Hunt, in massive white capital letters that took up half the helmet. That's it. No logos cluttering the surface. No elaborate artwork. No swooping graphics. Just the name. Just the attitude. The colors weren't random. They came from Wellington College, the English boarding school Hunt attended. Red, blue, and yellow were the school's colors. Most people would hide their prep school background in the rough world of 1970s motorsport. Hunt wore it on his head like a badge. That contradiction was the whole point. Hunt was highly educated, but completely wild. Charming enough for a dinner party, reckless enough to start a fight at 1. He earned the nickname Hunt the Shunt early in his career for crashing so often. When the winning started, the name took on a different flavor. The helmet matched the man. In an era when drivers plastered every surface with sponsor decals, Hunt kept his brutally clean. A small Goodyear logo sat below his name almost apologetically. The name was the brand. Putting James Hunt in that massive font across both sides of a jet black helmet was a statement of ego no other driver had the guts to make. When Kimi Räikkönen wanted to pay tribute at the 2012 Monaco Grand Prix, he wore an exact replica. Same black base, same stripes, same lettering, but with Iceman on the back. Räikkönen had been entering snowmobile races under the pseudonym James Hunt for years. He understood what the helmet represented. That racing should be dangerous, fun, and lived flat out. Hunt won the 1976 World Championship wearing that design, beating Niki Lauda in one of the most dramatic title fights ever. He retired in 1979 and died of a heart attack in 1993 at just 45. Decades of excess finally caught up, but the helmet lives on. Black, clean, loud, uncompromising, just like Hunt, the Phoenix. Before the fire, Niki Lauda's helmet was plain red. Simple, solid, no gimmicks. His full name, Niki Lauda, written in white on both sides. A Raiffeisen Bank logo on the chin, that's all. It looked exactly like you'd expect from a man whose approach to racing was purely mathematical. No wasted energy, no wasted paint. He was wearing an AGVX One Air System model when he lined up for the 1976 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, a track so dangerous that Lauda himself had tried to convince the other drivers to boycott the race. The conditions were terrible. The safety standards were medieval. Nobody listened. On lap 2, his Ferrari hit the barriers and burst into flames. He was trapped for nearly a minute. 4 drivers pulled over to drag him out. The fire took most of his right ear, disfigured his face permanently. The toxic fumes destroyed his lungs. Priests administered last rites. He wasn't expected to survive. 6 weeks later, Lauda was back in a car at the Italian Grand Prix. Blood soaked through his balaclava because the helmet lining aggravated his burns. A GV made him a modified helmet so the padding wouldn't press against his wounds. He finished 4th. His body was still healing, and he finished 4th in a Grand Prix. He lost the championship to Hunt by a single point that year, won it again in 1977, then walked away, got bored, and came back with McLaren in 1982. When Lauda returned, the red helmet came back, but different. His name was gone. In its place was a large red L on each side, the logo of Lauda Air, the airline he'd founded in 1979. The man advertised his own airline on his F1 helmet. Peak Lauda, no sentimentality, pure business. He won his 3rd championship in 1984, beating Alain Prost by half a point, the closest title fight in history. That original Nürburgring helmet was stolen at an event in Milan in 1988 and disappeared for 37 years. It resurfaced in 2024, listed for auction at the Miami Grand Prix. Then, it was abruptly withdrawn before the sale. Even the helmet has a comeback story. When Lauda died on May 20th, 2019, the entire grid wore red caps. Mercedes painted their halo red. The man who should have died in a burning car in 1976 lived another 43 years, built 3 airlines, won 3 championships, and changed Formula One forever. The helmet that burned at the Nürburgring became proof that the fire doesn't get to decide when you're done. Simple and iconic. Sebastian Vettel holds an unusual record. During the Red Bull years, he went through over 60 different helmet designs. Every race, a new look, tributes, collaborations with artists, mosaic portraits of the entire Red Bull team. It got so out of hand that the FIA changed the rules in 2015, banning in-season helmet changes. The paddock literally called it the Vettel rule. And here's the irony. The moment Vettel was forced to pick one design and stick with it, he created the most iconic helmet of the modern era. White base, German flag running from front to back. That's the whole thing. Vettel described it himself with zero pretense. I like white as a color, even though maybe it doesn't qualify as a color. It's a simple and timeless design. I think it's as simple as it gets, and probably timeless as well. The German flag, black, red, and gold, was his constant. It appeared on every single design he ever wore, no matter how wild the rest of the artwork got. But once everything else was stripped away, that flag became the entire identity. The flag was also an homage. Vettel idolized Schumacher growing up. Schumacher also wore the German flag on every helmet. But where Schumacher's was surrounded by sponsors and changing colors, Vettel reduced everything to its purest elements. White canvas, flag, nothing else. His helmet designer Jens Munzer nailed it. The white helmet with the flag is now his distinctive mark. When illustrator Christoph Niemann was invited to design a special helmet for the 2018 German Grand Prix, even he had to work around the one untouchable element, the narrow German flag. At the 2020 Eifel Grand Prix, at the Nürburgring, Vettel wore a tribute to Schumacher. White base, German flag, but with Schumacher's stars, dragon, and MS logo added. It was his way of acknowledging where the tradition began. In his final years with Aston Martin, the helmet became a message board. At the Turkish Grand Prix, he replaced the tricolor with a pride rainbow. When Russia invaded Ukraine, he wore anti-war messaging. He advocated for the environment, water conservation, and equality. The white canvas that started as minimalist aesthetic became a platform for everything Vettel cared about. That's why this helmet matters. Vettel went from changing his design every weekend to proving that the simplest design carries the most meaning. White and a flag, that's all it took. Sometimes less really is everything.